Hi everyone, I'm David Rodriguez. Welcome to Leaning Left. This is a video I've wanted to do for a long time, but I decided to wait until my channel hit a milestone, and now's the time. I just hit 500 subscribers, so thank you all so much for subscribing. It really, truly means the world to me. I think it's fair to say that whatever side of the political aisle you're on, you look at the folks on the other side, especially at the farthest ends, and wonder how they can possibly think the way they do. Being someone who is on the left, I could probably explain why I'm the way I am, but given my target audience, I think we all probably have thoughts about that, and besides, it's very hard to be objective about oneself. Before I get into why I believe Republicans think the way they do, I want to talk about an interesting study done by a trio of political scientists at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and Rice University that they detailed in their 2013 book, Predisposed. In it, they found physical differences in the brains of people who identified as liberal and conservative. In liberals, there's a higher volume of gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex, which helps detect errors and resolve conflicts, and lead liberals to be more comfortable with novelty, nuance, and complexity. In conservatives, there tends to be a higher volume of gray matter in the amygdala, which regulates emotions and helps evaluate threats. Conservatives tend to want security, predictability, and authority more than liberals do. Now, the study didn't know if our brains started out that way, and so we politically went one direction, or if we started going one direction politically and our brains changed as a result. But that's interesting science of our differences, and it does back up my thoughts on why Republicans think the way they do. I don't want to misrepresent this. After this point, it's all my opinion, but I think at the core of nearly everything Republicans believe is fear, one of our most primal instincts. I should say that fear in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It can save us from dangerous situations, but fear combined with the desire for security, predictability, and authority leads to problems that are blatantly exemplified, especially in the more extreme Republicans. So let's talk about some common current-day Republican beliefs and how they stem from fear. Guns. This is by far the most obvious one. Now, I'm not talking about people who buy a handgun for protection. That statistically won't likely work for them, but taking some safety precautions is understandable, even if it's also based in fear. I'm talking about the people who think we should have AR-15s and everyone should open carry, and who feel like they need 10 guns for each person in their house and can't stand to go anywhere unarmed. These people are terrified. Pants-shittingly terrified all day, every day. You can't tell me that if all their guns didn't magically disappear one day, they wouldn't be in an all-out panic. No amount of logic will ever get it through to them that their love and need for guns is beyond bizarre. That's because people aren't rational when they're terrified, and these ammosexuals are terrified of home invaders, foreign or domestic tyrannical governments, and for a lot of them, anyone that doesn't match their skin tone. If they weren't absolutely terrified all the time, they'd realize their gun fetish is absolutely irrational and insane. Then there's immigration. If you listen to conservative politicians and news sources, you'd swear that legions of cartel members driving tanks, carrying rocket launchers, and all wearing Iron Man armor were blasting their way into this country daily. I'm not saying that we don't need to work on our immigration process, but the incredibly vast majority of these people trying to cross the border are just normal people trying to escape a dangerous place to have a better life, like any single one of us would likely do in the same situation. They aren't coming to destroy our economy, because when they live and work in our communities, they spend money in our communities. If you want to make the economy of a town along the border crash and burn, enforce really strict immigration laws. But conservatives can't see it that way. They see these people, if they even see them as people and not illegals, as scary because they look different, have a different language, or have a different culture than what conservatives are comfortable with. That all flies in the face of the predictability they so crave. Add to that a media that paints these people as less than human, and you end up with conservatives thinking there's an invasion. As a side note, if they really are worried about the dangerous cartel members, they should know that it's super hard to buy a gun in Mexico, so they come here to buy them because our gun laws are pathetic. On to abortion. Despite the fact that they're constantly screaming that abortion is murder, most of them aren't actually afraid of these supposed murderers. They're terrified that women will have control over themselves, because if they have full control and full rights, then they'll try to gain power. And if they gain power, they'll have the power over men. And if they have power over men, it will be the apocalypse. Well, no. Of course it won't. But this again goes to their fear of anything that upsets predictability. They know what men do in power. They're terrified to find out what would happen if too many women have power, so they try to restrict them every way they can. Then there is our current biggest culture war against the LGBTQIA community, and especially the trans community. There is almost nothing more scary to them than not knowing who someone else wants to have sex with. Few things are as terrifying to them as not being able to look at someone and know if that person is a man or woman. They can't fathom a more terrible fate than finding out someone that was born Steve is now Sarah. So they do everything to try to make all those people hide who they are because it is so scary to them that there might be people that fall outside of their sexual comfort zone. Even though, and I can't stress this enough, it has nothing to do with them. Nonetheless, we have grown men and women who flip out at the first glimpse of a rainbow, and because they can't deal with their own confusion, they turn their fear into hatred of the stupidest kind. Let me let these people in on a little secret. Straight people can get down to some weird shit too, and you know nothing about that either. One of the things I mentioned is that they like authority and hate unpredictability. That's why we're currently seeing the Republican Party fully embrace fascism right now. They're embracing leaders who are openly hostile to many of the groups I've already mentioned, who are trying to enforce the religion that conservatives are comfortable with, who are banning the learning of actual history that might show people that white people have been less than perfect. They're supporting any person who promises to keep everyone in line and exactly the same as each other, because they are so terrified of anyone being in any way different than them that they're willing to give up their own freedom as long as their chosen leaders will just force everyone to conform. Listen, I've covered a lot of stuff here, and most of it deserves a deeper dive than I could do in this video. But to summarize, everything that conservatives do and everything they fight for, they do for one reason only: irrational, uncontrollable fear. So let me know in the comments what I missed. I know there are many more things I could have touched on. Let me know if I'm missing an angle on anything I did talk about. I'll likely revisit all these topics in a more in-depth way in the future. But in the meantime, be sure to hit like and subscribe and click the bell icon so you can know about the next time I put out a video. If you're a liberal, be glad you aren't scared of everything. And don't forget to stay woke, stay vigilant, keep fighting, and remember, if you keep leaning left, you'll always be right.